Hey, how's everybody doing today? You're watching Slot Car Mayhem. I'm John, and this will be episode 16 of the Glendale 65. And today what we're going to do is we're going to get this pit lane entrance and dedicate it only for the safety car. And the reason why I'm doing this is because the way my layout is designed and with the arrangement of the lane changers, which are set up to enhance the driving and racing experience, it will not allow the safety car to return back to its home when we return the car. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to do some modifications, and we're going to see if we can get this safety car to return home just to the dedicated pit lane return strictly for the safety car. So once again, this is unrehearsed. Let's go ahead and get the safety car out of the way. And I'm going to go ahead, we're going to turn this thing over and see what we have. Same normal like we expect. We've got a handful of screws, and right here in the middle we've got one of the Torx head screws, which I can just get out with a 2mm Allen head. But what's odd is I don't feel any screws for any of the paper covers where you had to remove a screw for warranty work. So this is something that's easy enough to do, shouldn't be a problem. So let's go ahead and tear into it and see what we have. Let me get my trusty tray over here so I don't lose my screws. I'm going to use my magnetic screwdriver, it's easier. I don't have to worry about dropping screws. One here, I'm probably going to need my 2mm Allen head. And I can just get in there and very carefully turn it. Now I should be able to get it with a smaller head flathead, and there we go. Pretty simple. I really need to get me some Torx heads. All my Torx heads are kind of worn out, so okay, and we take it off, and when we can see what we've got in here. Pretty simple, very standard, classic design for the pit lane entrance. And there's a sensor there, so what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to move it to the other side of the slot. That's the first thing we're going to do. So let's see what we need to do to go ahead and get the sensor out. If we notice, it's under tape, so we can go ahead and we can remove the tape, and guess what? It's just loose. It just sits in there loose with the tape, and the tape and the cover hold it in place. Wow, this is very easy. There's nothing to it. So all I need to do, see if I can get this to focus in, it's like we have the hole here. I just need to drill that on the other side and move the sensor to that side. So that'll be our first step. So I'll go ahead and get that done, and I'll be right back. Okay, we're back, and I've drilled the hole on the other side of the slot. You can see right here, my original hole was right here, and I re-drilled a new hole right there. 1/8 of an inch, and let's go ahead and put this thing back together. That was pretty simple. Okay, first thing we're going to do is we're going to put our sensor back into place, into its proper location. And if I notice, take a good look right here. Okay, right here in this area, we're going to have to make some notches in there to allow the wires to sit into those notches. And it looks like it's going to have to be on the, can it be on either side, it looks like. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to cut them in this side right here, closest to the slot. And that should help the wires set in there and then feed through this way, the way they originally came out of the package. So let's go ahead and get that done, and I'll show you what we got. Okay, first thing I did was just cut a little notch in the wall for the wires to go through with my 1/8 inch cutter on my Dremel. That took about a whole 8 seconds, and I've gone ahead and I've fed my wires through again. Now you can see we have our sensor on the other side, along with the wires fed in the same original channel, and I even used the same tape to go ahead and put everything back down again, and I think we should be good. So at this point, I'm going to put the cover back on. I'm going to give it a quick wipe down, make sure it's clean on the inside. Everything looks good. And I'm going to go ahead and drop my cover into place. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to start putting this one back together. So we'll go ahead, I'll get this done. And then we're going to go ahead and we're going to move through to what we need to do with the safety car itself and see if we can get this knocked out. This is a lot easier than I thought. I can't believe I waited as long as I did to do this. This didn't take any time at all. So it probably took longer to get the track piece in and out than it did to make this modification. Okay, turning our attention to the safety car. One thing I did notice when I took this thing out of the box, the tires are pretty shot on it. But I'm going to go ahead and try this anyway. So I'm going to need to order myself some new tires here today. Really surprised to see the condition of these tires. Looks like they half turned to goo and then changed their mind. So I might have to do a little additional sanding on the tires, but other than that, it should be pretty simple. But what we need to do here, first things first, is we are going to, remember now you've got these LEDs, so we need to pull these LEDs out. Or need to pull the connections for the roof bar out. Okay, good. And if this don't want to run very well, I'll go ahead and I'll use my mule car. But what we're going to do is I'm going to try to get everything out of the way here. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to remove the chip. We're going to spin it around 180 degrees, put the chip back in, and we're going to have to drill a new hole, thus putting the sensor on the other side of the car. Now, looking at the position of the sensor and where the screw is, looks like it's about 3/8 of an inch, meaning the sensor is probably going to end up about between 1/2 and 3/4 from where it is now, aft. So that being said, I might need to relocate that sensor on the lane change piece to the track piece ahead of it and dedicate that, moving that sensor piece forward 1/2 of an inch if this doesn't seem to work. If not, perhaps I can shorten the guide flag a little bit. That may make a difference, but we'll take it one step at a time and we'll see what we have. So the first thing we're going to do, of course, is we're going to pull the chip and we're going to see what we're going to need to do to rotate the chip around 180 degrees. We should have plenty of length, which we do on our wiring, so there's no worries about wiring length. And it'll spin around real nice. Yeah, that won't be a problem at all. And it looks like we're going to have to take this capacitor right here and we're going to have to bend that up to gain a little bit of clearance. And let's take a deeper look and see what we have. And I'm going to kind of set that in place and get a rough idea where that sensor needs to go. And yeah, I was right. It's about maybe 3/4 of an inch aft. So I'm going to do my best to get an eyeball on it about where it needs to go, and I'm going to mark, and I'll probably drill a 1/4 of an inch hole inside the chassis to make sure I got plenty of room for the sensor, and I'll come back once that's done and we got the hole drilled. Okay, we're back. I've made the modifications to the car and I've got it back together now. First thing I did is I've added a 1/4 inch hole right here so the chip can be see the sensor. So that's one thing I did. The switch, you'll have to make sure the switch is set because now that's back here. We don't have room for it now. I'm not going to make another slot just for the chip because we never touched that anyway. You can see where the sensor was here originally, so we moved it back a good 3/4 of an inch, and we may have to accommodate that, I don't know. I went ahead and I put the card back together, and one modification I have done also is where the center magnet is. There's a post with a cap and a screw, and I did remove that cap and screw. The main reason why is I didn't want the screw head to short out the chip at all, and I just put a couple quick drops of super glue in to hold the magnet in place, and I shortened the length of this post so the chip would sit flat like it's supposed to, and everything seems to work fine. The odd part is routing the wires may be a little bit different. So we're going to put the car back together, we're going to get it back on the track, and we're going to see how it functions. Now that being said, I expect it to be slow and very noisy. I've done the best I could with these tires, but these back tires are hard as a rock, and the front tires are, half of them are goo, half of them are hard as a rock. So we'll see what we get once we get the car back together and get it on the track. Okay, I was correct in my assessment on the tires. They're very hard, very dry in the back, and they're very, very noisy. The front tires are lumpy and gooey, and they're just a mess. So the car's very slow, but I did get it to work. So let's go ahead and take a quick test and a quick run, and if you can just pardon the noisy tires, we'll get this thing going. And as soon as I make my way back upstairs, I'm ordering new tires for this thing. So let's see what we have. We just hit the safety car button and it comes out, and you can see the lights are on. One thing you will notice, the safety car will not change lanes. It will not count laps. It won't do anything except drive around in this one little lane until you recall it. And as you can hear, it's quite noisy, and it's very slow because that's about the maximum speed I can get out of it before it spins itself off the track. But other than that, we seem to be doing okay. And does a good job. Just drives around, does what it needs to do. And if we recall it, once again, normally it would hit every single lane change. In this case, it's not hitting any. That's because the sensor's on the other side, and it parks itself just fine. So as far as moving the sensor on the track section to the other side of the slot and spinning the chip around, that works great. It seems to be just fine. When I get my new tires, I'll test it to make sure that it works fine with the pace car going a little bit faster. But honestly, I don't want the pace car much faster than what it is already. I want it nice and slow. The point of it is to slow everybody down, and that's exactly why we have it. So something happens in a race, you can just pull out the safety car, lights come on, nobody can pass the safety car. That's the rule. You pass the safety car, your car's off the track, you're out of the race. So you don't pass the safety car, and that'll slow everything down and give time somebody to do what they have to do, or you can start a race that way. Same thing, you follow the pace car till it parks itself, and then you take off. So once again, the lights are off, meaning it's indicating that it's getting ready to park, and it's in. That's it. Very simple. Now, one thing I have learned by doing this experimentation, it appears that I'm going to move the safety car here for a minute, that this section of track right here, the pit lane fuel sensor, that's not required to park the safety car. It appears to be that there's a difference in voltage between the pit lane and the regular racing, and that change in voltage is what triggers the car to stop. So I'm going to do a little bit more experimentation on that and see if there's anything I can do about swapping out one of the main pit sections I have with that sensor over there, and maybe I can do something in that regard, because that's obviously not required to stop the pace car once it returns home. So that's something I'll go ahead and experiment with and see what I come up with. But other than that, this was an extremely easy modification, and if anybody's running into the same issue I have, where you've got a good running layout but you can't get the safety car to return the way you want it to, this is a very easy to implement modification, and it's completely reversible. So that's the beauty of it. I can just put it back anytime I want to with no problem. I can just take the chip in the car and spin it around 180 degrees, and I'll just have an extra hole in the bottom of the chassis, but really, do we care? Not really. So it's going to be dedicated for that purpose only, and that's going to work just fine. So that'll wrap up this episode of the Glendale 65, and once again, I want to thank everybody for all the subscriptions, all the comments, everything. They mean a lot to me, and you know, keep them coming. I love hearing input. I love hearing suggestions or anything like that. I'm always wide open for that stuff, especially now before I get too far ahead. And if you guys have anything you want to see, just let me know. Any questions I can answer, I'll be happy to do the best I can. And once again, thanks for everything, and I want everybody to enjoy the rest of their day, and thank you for watching. We'll see you next time.